questions. We're taking the quest. Join Tarsha on this journey to discover the rest. Go.
Welcome to the Adoption Journey Podcast. I am your host, Tarsha Smith, and welcome back to another journey and another story. Before we get started, let me remind you that Black Adoptees Meetup is doing the Comfort Bag Drive for the foster kids. So please go to blackadopteesmeetup.org and click on Comfort Care Bag to get your duffel bag or your toiletry item or your toiletry bag. And we will be donating everything on December 12th, and each bag will have a toy in it, courtesy of little orphan Ashley. Shout out and thank you so much. And make sure you like, share, subscribe, follow, do all the things for the Adoption Journey Podcast and Black Adoptees Meetup. All right, we have all of that out of the way. I am so excited about this conversation. We have an adoptee and a birth mom in the building. Oh my gosh. Hello, Dr. Abby.
Hello.
Thank you so much for coming on and diving into your story. She has an amazing book that I'm a Audible snob.
Okay. What does that mean?
Means I need everybody to put your books on Audible. It is called Adopting Privilege. And
yes,
we're going to start right here. I know that you were a transracial adoptee.
yes.
And you were adopted at how old?
5 months. I was 5 months
5
old.
months. Mm-hmm. And can you talk a little bit about this family that adopted you?
Sure. So my parents were both educators. It was the 70s, so they grew up through civil rights and kind of had a colorblind mentality and believed that they could make a big difference in the world, and were always looking to do that and to think about race in a different way, to think about class in a different way. That was kind of their ideal and idealism of like how the US could become a melting pot. And I think that part of their adoption of me was part of that belief and that ideal that they had. A little misguided. I do recognize that them saying that they were colorblind completely negated one of the biggest parts of my identity as a Black person. But they came to this with this mindset that they could adopt a child of a different race, and that with their culture, they're educating me that the life experiences that I would be no different than their 3 biological children because we were all raised in the same house from birth.
Even though you didn't look like them.
Yes, even though I didn't look like them, I had a completely different culture from them, different needs physically than them. Yes, they did not recognize any of that at the time, and were not guided to much of that either by the
70s.
Agencies. Yes.
Yeah. Do you know why they decided to adopt, and were they specifically looking for someone of another race, or just the quickest baby they could get with, or both?
Yeah, so I have 2 different stories. The one my mom told all throughout when I was growing up about how they just wanted to adopt. They couldn't have any more kids. They wanted a big family, and they just wanted to adopt and wanted us to all be about 2.5 to 3 years apart. So it was about that time. And so my mom said that they just wanted to adopt. And when I was presented to them, they just saw a healthy child and they were happy to adopt me. My dad, on the other hand, just decades later, like literally about 10 years ago, told me that they had actually originally tried to get a white baby, but that they weren't available fast enough because they didn't want a big break. And they said it could be years before a white baby would be available. So then they thought about a Vietnamese baby, those children who had been fathered by American soldiers and orphaned in Vietnam. That was their kind of second, well, maybe we'll do this instead. And they found that was super expensive and difficult as well. And so the social
Mhm.
worker baby basically said, I can get you a black baby cheap and free, not free, cheap and soon, quick. And so that's what they went with. And so the story that I had been told my entire life was not exactly true. My mom had fabricated that story
Yeah.
to go along with that kind of mentality that they
Oh, okay.
had. Yes.
So talk to me about, okay, you have siblings. Were
Yes.
there different? Did they show, you know, you're obviously you're adopted, so
Mhm.
were there differences in how they treated them versus treating
Not
you?
that I know of. No, I don't think so. Not in like the day-to-day life of it.
Hmm.
We really didn't talk about adoption. It wasn't like this is my adopted sister. It was just I'm their sister. This is my child. It was adoption wasn't a part of the language in our household. So not really.
And what was it like growing up in this white family?
Isolating is the best word I can use to describe. I felt different all the time and like I could not be who I knew I wanted to be or who I knew I was deep down, who I knew I was originally born to be. So isolating in that way, but not anything that they necessarily did. It was more of an internal feeling of me recognizing that who I was in my spirit and in my core, my blackness wasn't acceptable in my house, or not necessarily acceptable, but not understood in my house. It wasn't
Hmm.
that they did not embrace that part of me. They didn't embrace Black culture, and so that was very isolating for me, especially in middle
Oh,
school.
okay. So they were not, even though they adopted this black little girl, they were not embracing the culture.
No, no, and I would
So,
say not only not embracing, but almost rejecting it.
oh, why would you say rejecting it?
Because there were comments like, I want to get braids, and no, braids are for inner city kids. Or, the music wasn't appropriate. Like comments about Black culture that indicated that my Blackness wasn't welcomed in the house if I expressed it in a way that was, I don't know, counter to what they believed I should, or how I should express it.
Okay, so you and I are roughly about the same age. You're just a little bit older than me. So tell me, what music were you listening to that was quote unquote acceptable in the house?
The acceptable music
The acceptable
was
music. We're gonna get to the other
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. The acceptable music was music that my brothers listened to. I have a brother who's 2.5 years older than me, so that was the
Okay.
influence of the Beatles. Just if you think of any kind of white popular music from the '70s, ABBA, I listened to it, and so that was kind of that acceptable. The Who, Tom Petty, like those were the things that were acceptable in the home for my family.
And what were you sneaking and listening to?
New Edition, always my favorite. Probably have seen them in concert 8 times. This first time was when I
Yes,
was in middle school. So,
that was my first
New
concert as
Edition.
well.
They were
Hmm.
my second conference concert. First one was actually the Jacksons. So New Edition, Michael Jackson, DeBarge. I lived in Miami, so anything Miami sound. Just yeah, anything. And then in high school, I moved to Baltimore, so it was all house music. All of that
Mm.
was what filled my soul for sure.
So this is gonna sound crazy, but when you were
Okay.
younger, it is. I promise you, it is. Did you know you were black?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Especially my mom talked about it a lot about blackness and how society at large looked at black people and how I would have to navigate stores and like things like that. She talked about that often and
Oh, okay.
how
So she did
yeah,
acknowledge that.
yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
When we lived in Miami, I went to country clubs where I was the first Black person to go to them, and she would talk to me about that and that experience and what it would feel like. And she was very good at articulating the ills of society in that way and the way they looked at me. But also, I recognized that there was she distinguished between me and other Black children, and so she recognized that Black in America was not. recognized as a good thing being Black in America, but she also had a standard for me in her head that separated me from Black people in Black families, in Black communities. And I recognized her bias and her racism in that pretty young. I would say probably around middle school, high school, at least ninth grade, but maybe even earlier. I recognized that in her.
You told a story in your book that I really resonated with, and it was when you were not allowed to go to the country club because they
Yeah.
didn't accept Black people. And
Yes.
I had a similar experience, not with the country club, but dealing with race. Because while I was adopted by Black people, I was raised in an all white, like we were the only Blacks on the block.
Yep.
So, and so of course, the little neighborhood kids are your friends.
Yes.
And the first time I experienced something like that, the little girl down the street, she was actually Cuban. And she was having a birthday party, and we would play all the time. And I was told that I could attend, it was a birthday party, slumber party.
Mm.
I could attend the birthday party, but I could not spend the night.
Wow. Yeah.
And I remember having a fit. And my parents were like, "You're not going to the party at all."
Yeah.
But as a little girl, I don't want to go to the party.
Yeah.
It's okay. I'll just go. My parents were like, "You are not going down there."
Yeah.
And she's also the first person a short time after to call me the N-word.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I
So,
did not have that experience. So when my experience with the country club, my parents said, you were not they said you can't come, you're not going over their house ever again, but she can always come over here. And so they separated that racist mentality from the child, and we were still friends, and I was still friends with her. And so
and my
that,
parents didn't do that. She couldn't come over, and
yeah,
I couldn't.
yeah,
They shut all
yeah,
that down.
yes,
Yeah. So when I read that, I was like, "Oh, yeah, I remember feeling like that."
yeah,
As a little Black girl in this white family, and as you titled your book, The Privilege,
yeah.
did you realize that you were, how did you say it, privilege adjacent? I love that term. Did you realize it, or did you think, oh, everybody must be doing this?
So I honestly, until high school, I actually thought that we were poor and that I didn't have as much because of the school that I went to. Everyone there was so much more affluent, and I went there because my mother
Oh,
taught there. And
okay.
so I didn't recognize it until high school. It was high school when I was like, oh, there's something different going on here. And I saw it first within the education system, but it wasn't until then I was like the poor family at the school, poor in quotes, because my
Yeah.
dad was a professor and my mom was a teacher. So not poor at all, but it felt that way when your friends are being
So
driven
you
to
were the
school with drivers.
ones, because
Yeah.
you were doing some stuff
Yes.
like
Yeah. All the lessons,
all the
all the
traveling,
traveling. Yeah.
like could see the pyramids from the window. And you have to read the
Yeah.
book if you want to catch these little nuggets I'm throwing out there. But I was like,
Yeah, but we were traveling to Europe every summer while we lived in Egypt, while my friends were traveling back to the US and coming back with like tons of American food and clothes and all these things. And so, because it was much cheaper to go to Europe and we were a family of six, we backpacked through Europe while my friends were going back and doing like these nice hotels or like Club Med. And when I lived in Miami, a lot of my friends did Club Med in the summer, and I went to musical theater camp at the University of Miami because my dad taught there and it was free. And so there were these like little nuances about how I grew up compared to the people around me that made me really recognize that my parents didn't have the same kind of money as my
yeah.
friends. And because I wasn't around anyone but those people, I didn't realize what actual poverty looked like until probably high school.
And by high school, you're in Miami, right?
In high school, I moved to Maryland, right outside
Maryland.
of
Okay.
Baltimore. Yeah.
Okay. Something else that would stood out to me, because you're an adoptee and we deal with this abandonment and attachment and everything. Girl, y'all moved
A
a
lot.
lot.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So, like, what is that like? Because you, like, did you ever feel stable? It seemed like as soon as
Yeah.
you would get your
Yeah.
stride, they were like, Time to
It's
go.
time to
Wrap
go.
this up.
Yes. Yeah, and I'm an introvert, and so I hated it. I really did. I felt lost all the time and not sure where I fit in, and every time I started to get there, it was time to move again.
That's
And
exactly
so
what
that was a
comes off in
lot.
the book.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was definitely a lot. My siblings are much more extroverted, and all of them still travel. Two brothers who went to Georgetown School of Foreign Service, and so they,
Mhm.
of course, took jobs that took them overseas. My sister took a job that took her to Amsterdam in the UK. They all embraced it, and I felt very, very lost through all of it.
Oof. Yeah. Every time you were like, um, and then we moved, and I was
Yeah.
like I could feel it because I
Yes.
know, and I don't know if this has to do with adoption or not, but I don't like a whole lot of change either.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I know
Yeah.
it's necessary sometimes, but the way you guys are moving,
Yeah.
talk to me something that stood out. Your time in Miami, and I don't know if it's just because it's something that I could relate to, because again, you and I are close in age, and I'm in Florida. So I
Mhm.
could totally like visualize that era in
Yeah.
Miami. Talk to me about that time,
Yeah,
that
that
short
was
time.
yeah, it's 5 years, so it was actually one of the longer
That was
times,
long for
but
you.
yeah, yeah, but still short for most people. Yeah, it was a very interesting time, and it probably was one of my favorite places that I lived, and I was really sad to leave there, although I'm glad now looking back because I became who I am and really sat into my identity after we left there and came to Maryland outside of Baltimore. But it was a time where like affluence and like all the things you about think about Miami, like that
Hmm.
was my life. My friends had drivers and Rolls Royces and houses with pools that were like indoor outdoor, like you swim under the wall and now you're outside right along the canal and boats. And so the experience was like so strange, so surreal, and beautiful and lovely, and they were my friends. Like I was really good friends with a lot of people there, like a lot of my school friends, but I felt very isolated from the Black community. I think that like at some point I saw BET and saw Black music and saw Black people dancing, and it felt like there was this whole culture out there that I had no access to. And so it became my mission to almost like kick down the doors of Black community in Black culture in Miami. So that meant like going to the mall with my white friends and hanging around the food court and meeting Black girls and just being like, hey, you know, hi, how are you? And getting phone numbers and then finding time to go skating with them so that I just, there was something in me that needed that blackness.
Yeah. So talk about. I'm gonna get back to that, but I just had a after backtrack for me just a little bit.
Hmm.
Talk about your hair, y'all. Okay, hold on.
Oh.
Let me just say this to all my Black girls that are listening. This young lady was going swimming every day.
Every day, swim team.
She was not using lotion. She,
Nope.
she
No hair oils.
no hair oils, no like back in the day, no grease.
No,
No,
none of
she
it.
talk about your hair. What was happening?
Yeah, I didn't know any better. It wasn't really until middle school when I started to be interested in
Middle
boys where
school.
I was like, "Ooh, I should figure out how to look cuter because this is not cute." But
What was
yeah,
it looking?
it was
I could
it
almost
was afro, and it was like brown at the bottom and then orange at the top from the sun and the
the sun and
chlorine.
the chlorine.
Yeah, and
Yes.
just dry and kind of stringy, and I kept it pretty short most of the time, and yeah, it was a mess and I was ashy all the time. And to my mom's credit, she never took care of her look, so she wasn't like a makeup person or a hair person herself, and so she didn't think about it for me,
It
because it
is.
wasn't a thought.
And I do understand. I do put this into context that we're dealing with people from the baby boomers from an
Yeah,
era that did not like they adopted. Thank you, kept it pushing. So I keep that in the back of my mind. But still,
yeah,
you have this skin,
hmm,
and you have got to see that this baby is ashy all the time,
yeah,
and
yes,
you have got to notice the hair because I know you watch TV, I assume.
Yeah, but my siblings were doing the same, and they had the like the green chlorine like stiff hair because she didn't take care of
Oh,
theirs
so
either.
everybody was
So
walking around looking
yeah,
a mess. Okay.
yeah. So
It
theirs
just
wasn't
spread
as
across the
bad.
board.
Yeah, theirs wasn't as bad because their hair needs weren't as deep as mine. But that's why I say I give her credit for not knowing because
But
she just didn't do it
just
for
didn't know.
anyone.
Right.
Yeah.
So did kids at school start saying anything, or did you just have a self-awareness like,
It was self-awareness because no, the kids at school didn't know either. If I'm the only black kid
that's
in their
right. You
grade,
just told
like,
me, girl, I'm trying to keep up with
yeah.
the only black kid. Okay, so they didn't know either. So now TV and the influence and why
Yeah.
it's so important that we see ourselves
Yes.
because you're starting to. What was the first thing that you decided to do to your hair?
So I relaxed it myself
Brace
the
yourself,
seventh
Black
time.
girls.
Yeah, seventh grade. I relaxed my hair all by myself in seventh
In
grade.
seventh grade.
Yeah, seventh grade through high school, I pretty much did it myself and did not go to a salon, I think, until college when I could pay for it on my own and take myself. It might have been my senior year in high school. But yeah, I was way too old.
How did you even know to get a perm? TV?
Commercials, BET, yeah, they all those
Just for
commercials.
you.
Yes, just for me, yeah. All of them. They saved me. And then following the directions on the box, which would say like do this and then put the oil on. Okay, well, let me go get the oil. And yeah, it was all from TV and then curling irons and all of that happened after around seventh grade. Yeah.
Trying to, my mama had just let me start washing my own hair in the seventh
Yeah.
grade, but a perm, absolutely not. And did you ever have an experience where your hair fell out, or were you didn't?
It never fell out. It was
Okay,
always it wouldn't grow, like, it would always break, and
ah,
probably because I wasn't caring for it, so it was always real pretty short. Never had a burn or a fallout because I followed their directions. Like, you say
okay,
10 minutes, I'm putting my timer on 10 minutes, and I'm washing it right out. Like, I followed the directions and
okay.
recognized that no one was going to tell me how to do this, so I had to figure it out
Wow.
myself.
And you're still swimming.
Yeah. Yes.
It's-
Not as often after that because that was part of the directions, like don't get it wet for 24 hours and don't do this and that. And so as I started to learn about it, I actually stopped swimming. I think it was in seventh grade. I got off the swim team and joined the track team in seventh grade.
wow. Okay, okay. Now I'm going back to Miami. So I don't know if you want to tell the story on the pod. Well, not the whole story, but touch um on something, somebody that you met in Miami.
Oh, yeah. Anthony. Yeah, I met him at the mall with my out there with my white friends hanging out trying to meet black people. And I met one. Yeah, and
Yes, you
he
did.
yes. Yeah, he was the love of my life for many, many years until he died. But yeah, he approached me in the mall and just was like, "Can I have your phone number? Can I take you to the movies sometime?" And I was like, "Wow, black boy actually is interested in me. This is great."
Was
I
that the
had
first time?
no, he think was the third
Third.
third
Okay.
time that that a black guy at the mall had shown interest, but he was the only one that I was really interested in. So it was like the first time that like I was had the same feeling or the same mutual interest in him.
And do
Um,
you want to say who he is? We're not going to get into
sure, yeah, that's
details.
fine. Yeah,
You got to go get the book.
yes, he was Bob Marley's half brother. They have the same mom, different dads. And so I didn't really know what that meant at the time. Bob had
Sure.
died, I think, like 4 years or so before I met him. So I didn't really know how big of a deal that was at the time. It was like years later. I think probably had to been in high school, maybe. I told someone he was coming to visit me, and I told someone, and the reaction was like, "Oh, I guess this is a much bigger deal." I mean, I had seen the platinum records, and I had listened. He had I listened to the music. He had sung me some of Bob's songs when we were dating and stuff. So
I
I
just had no
recognized,
clue.
but I didn't realize how big of a deal it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the time because he was just Anthony to me. His mom was
Right.
just Mother Booker to me.
And this is
Um,
the 80s. And like you said, he died, what, 80? one, I
Yeah.
believe. Yeah, so he had just
Yes.
passed away very
Yep.
recently at that point.
Yep.
And yeah, wow. So you gotta go get the book if you want that tea. And Bob Marley's little brother,
Yeah.
because that just walk. Hey, girl, at the mall,
Yeah. Yeah.
literally.
Yeah, and from him, I really recognized like my blackness as a woman, and like he made me feel beautiful as a black person for the first time. And his mother introduced me to soul food and would cook for me Jamaican soul food, but soul food nonetheless. So
Okay,
like I spent
stop.
so much time at their house because I
Time out.
felt comfortable.
Time out. Because you tell a story about your mom who had stopped cooking at some point,
Yes,
and I don't know what the cuisine was like at your house.
bland.
But when you had this, not only soul food, it has the audacity to be Jamaican soul food.
Yes.
What was that like?
It was like it was mind blowing. It was mind altering, especially because a lot of the food she actually grew in their yard.
Oh, it was so
And
good.
so, yeah, really, really good. Full of love. I would say that that's probably how it felt. It felt like food that was definitely full of love and cooked with love.
And did you feel like, what have I been missing?
Yeah,
Um,
yes. But I already knew that. Like I from
Okay.
watching TV, I already had that feeling that I was missing a lot. And so it was more of like, thank God I'm finally getting this experience. And so I spent way too much time at their house, more time than a 12, 13-year-old should be spending at a boy's house. Like I don't know what my mom was thinking. But it was part of just growing me and understanding my blackness. And so I really am thankful for that
Maybe
time.
that's why she let you do it.
I just think my parents just had this rule that you don't say no unless there's a really good reason to say no. And I don't think she
Mm.
recognized hormonal 13-year-oldness because that's not who she was growing up. My mom, her nickname was actually Prudy Pam growing up in college. And so I don't think she recognized the dangers that could have happened and some that did. Um, it just
We're
wasn't
going there.
yeah, it wasn't part of her, like, my child isn't going to be doing this. It was like, okay, she's meeting these people who are respectable and have this gorgeous house, and she's going swimming and hanging out and getting this great experience.
Yeah,
So
she's getting some experience on
I was getting,
campus.
yeah, experiences I should not have been getting, but again, still grateful.
Still, right, absolutely, because it made you who you are today, for
Yes,
sure.
absolutely.
I do want to turn the corner because you just kind of segue just a little bit into that.
Yeah,
Yeah, so becoming a birth mother.
yeah,
Talk about, first and foremost, you hid that pregnancy.
yeah, it did for
It
seven
was
months.
amazing to me how long you were able to hide that pregnancy.
It
How?
was the 80s, big
You're right.
sweatshirts. We
You're
we
right.
dressed differently then.
You're right. You're very, yeah, you're absolutely correct.
So, and then I laid around under blankets at the house, which I did already anyway. It was kind of a comfort thing. So there was nothing seemed off to my parents except for that I was sleeping a lot. And
Yeah.
so my mom did send me to the doctor when I was 5 months pregnant, thinking I had mono because I was sleeping a lot more than I had. And so he, of course, knew, and I still didn't say anything. And he finally told them when I was 7 months pregnant that I was pregnant.
But you are active. You
Yeah,
are
running track, playing
athletic.
volleyball.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you still doing the things?
Yeah, I was doing all of that. Yes. I think that at some point I told her I wanted to quit indoor track.
Okay.
And so that was like right in the middle, and that was about when she sent me to the doctor to see why I was so tired and did not feel like doing things. But up until then, yeah, I did.
What was the plan? Had they not have told,
Yeah,
what was the plan? And
there was
your
none.
little
Yeah.
teenage mind, there you're just going day by day.
Yep. And I think that's how I was built. That's who I was. It's how I was built from adoption. That's how I was built from abuse is just kind of clenching my jaw and pushing forward and just deny everything's fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine when nothing was fine. And that's really how I grew up from, probably before I was even adopted. I'm the way I am now, super even. That's how I was all the time. That's how I was when I was happy. It's how I was when I was sad, when I was scared. It's still just like this. So I think that was just pushed through.
And yes, she did say abuse, which I purposely did not touch on because you got to go get the book if you
Yes.
want nasty as well.
Yes.
'Cause I'm not going to talk about it. You got to
Yeah,
go get her book.
that's fair.
It's hot. That tea is hot. So,
It is.
and so they find out
Mhm.
in how 8 months,
So I was 7 months and
7
I had
months,
my son at 8.5. So it was about 6 weeks of making a
6 weeks
decision.
to make.
Yeah. Yeah. Make the life altering decision. And that's like the one thing in my life that I wish had not happened was the relinquishment of my son. Because
Please
I
talk
was,
about that because you used.
yeah.
I love the verbiage. The verbiage was so for someone who who for anybody who's not experienced that, the way
Mhm.
you talked about that experience, 6 weeks
Yeah.
and go. I'm just
Yeah, it was full out coercion. It was all of the things that we think about when we think about birth mother coercion. It was like covert. I didn't even know it was happening. I thought that I had made a decision and I had made it myself and that I had full support the whole time. And I believed that for decades, even
full
after
support from
relinquishment.
who?
From everyone, from my mom,
Okay.
from the adoption agency. It was a small agency owned by one woman, a little private agency. And she was supportive and showed up and was everything that I thought I needed. And she showed me all of these parents who had beautiful nurseries ready to go and letters about the lessons of sports and all the things that I grew up with that she was going to offer that they were going to offer any child that came into their home. And they talked about a little bit about their jobs and just these profiles of these people who were absolutely ready to have a child. Meanwhile, my parents and this woman said that they would support whatever decision I made. But no one ever told me what that support would look like. So it was June when I had my son, and there was no discussion about how I would go back to high school and finish my senior year, what daycare would look like, how we would turn our guest bedroom into a nursery, where clothes, diapers would come from. No one ever said anything about any of those things. And so when I look at it now, it was pure coercion because they said all the right things, but did not mean it at all. There was no plan of support, and they wanted me to relinquish my child for various reasons, depending on who the person was. And I recognize that now, but at the time, I did not see it. And so for years, I had this almost guilt of I relinquished my son, and I should not have ever gotten pregnant, and all of these feelings, and I made this horrible decision. And then recently, again within the last 10 years, it was like, wait a minute. As a mom, as a grandmother, I know that when my daughter came to me and said she was pregnant, mind you, she was married. But when she came and said she was pregnant, I said, okay, this is how we're going to do it. I know you weren't planning it this early. You guys are young, but don't worry about it. We're going to support whatever you need. If we're going to have baby showers and you'll get things, and whatever you don't get, I promise I'll provide. And when you want to go back and finish your master's degree, I will babysit. This is a grown woman who I was giving all the
Yeah,
support to.
right.
And at that point, I started to recognize, like, no one did this for me. No one showed me a path where I could actually have it happen. So much so that a couple weeks after I gave birth, my parents still sent me to track camp at Penn State, and with a note saying that I had had a medical procedure and couldn't actually run, but that I was still there to at least learn and participate. So it was that much of a disconnect of what was going on in my mind and my body.
Also, the fact that your parents were not there when you went into labor because they
Yeah.
did what?
They went on a trip for my mom's birthday. Yeah.
And you were how close to your due date?
2 weeks. 2 weeks away. And I was 2 weeks early. And of course, I'm sure the stress of it, being home with my 19-year-old brother,
Bless his
I'm
heart.
sure, yeah, I'm sure is probably part of what induced
Because
me into
you were
labor.
in full on TV mode, water break
Yeah.
mode.
Yes. Baking a
And
cake, like nesting
yeah,
when I was actually in the midst of baking a cake. And it
my
happened.
God.
Yeah.
And when you delivered your son,
Yeah.
because your parents had gone out of town, but they were within driving distance, but they were a few hours out.
Yes.
Who was there with you?
So they got there, I think, in time, if I remember correctly. They were there in time, but during the whole labor process, the agency worker was there
The
with me.
agency work.
Yes. Yeah.
And you are how old again?
17.
Oh my gosh. And then 2 weeks later, track camp.
Yep.
Like nothing ever happened.
Yes.
How would,
Yeah.
do you remember how you felt at track camp?
Um, just trying to survive. I just tried to fit in. I tried to not have too many questions asked and get to know people so that they didn't ask anymore. It's just like, okay, you can't run. I mean, things happen to us all the time where in sports where you can't participate. And so, yeah, I just wanted to fit in and kind of get away. I remember being relieved to be away. It was almost like I got to act like nothing happened for a minute. But also felt like I needed someone to acknowledge that something happened at the same time. There was this
Mm.
weird polarization in that way. But yeah, it was really, really hard.
As a birth mother, and I know you were super, super young, at what point, or yeah, I know that you did, at what point did you go, probably should have had some therapy? Or I should probably go
Yeah,
get some therapy.
as at grown, like again, last 10 years in my 40s, when I
Mm.
started to really recognize the coercion of it, it was like, okay, like, this was not okay, and I should have had therapy back then. But now I definitely need to figure out what's going on and just grieve. And it's weird grieving after being reunited with my son. So I had been reunited with him in 2010 or 11,
Mhm.
I think 11. And so it wasn't until 2020-ish that I was like, okay, I need to grieve some of these things. And really, it was learning that he did not go to the family that I had chosen for him
Okay.
and feeling
Oh,
that resentment.
stop. The family that you wanted him to go to was what?
Yeah, a mixed race family. The mother was black. They were the Cosbys in my mind. The mother was black and she was a doctor, and the father was white and was a lawyer. And they already had a black adopted son. And so, what was most important to me was that my son did not have the experience of being the only adoptee in the family, and also not being the only black person in the family. And so, when I went through those binders, it was the one family that had a black parent, and a black adopted son, and so that was the family that I chose for him.
And the adoption agency said, cool.
Yep,
Then
I relinquished my
years later,
rights,
you
and so then
relinquish
none of
your
it matters
rights and none of
anymore.
it matters. And then where did he actually
To a white family, older, about as old as my parents. So an older white family who had adopted two other children, two girls, one from an Asian country and one from India. So he was the only black person in his family.
the very experience that you did not want him to
Yes, and grew up in a very white community, white everything. Um, the one experience I didn't want him to have.
he
And I found out that she was best friends with the agency worker.
oof.
And so that at that point was finding all of that, and not at that point my mother was pretty deep into dementia, and the agency worker had passed from cancer. And so I had a lot of anger and resentment that I could feel in my body when I recognized that. And so then it was like, I need to get therapy because none of this is okay and it should not have happened.
Mm. But this is after you reunited with him.
Yeah, years after, decades
Years
after.
after.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you were able to reunite with him.
Yes.
I want to again back up just a little bit, and um, I love the stories that you tell when you enter college, and
Yeah.
you're like, "All right, I'm about to be a black girl." Period.
Full on.
Full
Yeah.
on. Talk about that time, because what stood out to me is I can only imagine being in this family, being in these environments, being in these schools, because you went to some of the best of the best, and then while I know that your parents thought they were doing right by you and giving you all of these things, but it still wasn't quite enough. I think the love is not enough.
Yeah, it wasn't what I needed.
It wasn't what you needed. So
Yeah.
talk about when you're like, all right, here we go.
Yeah,
Black
I
girl.
think it started really in high school. In high school, and I've only dated black men, so it clearly started in middle
That is
school.
so interesting. You know why?
Yeah.
Because a lot of transracial people that I talk to, they end up dating whatever they grew up with.
Yes.
That's what they date
Yeah,
or
no,
and marry.
I only dated black men, and in high school, I really only had black friends. I had a couple of like white. I had one white friend in my freshman year who thought she was black, and so she hung around with all the black people. And
Love
then
you.
again, in high school, I had white acquaintances, but all of my friends were black,
Because in
and
my
so
mind, you were full on BET Soul, Yo MTV
yeah,
Raps. That's what all everything I was envisioning when you were talking when you were speaking about
yes,
that.
100%, all in, all in. Yeah, and I got to college, and so then I didn't even have the influence of my parents.
Right.
And so I just fully embraced Black culture and did everything Black, including majoring in African American studies and sociology to get that experience that I didn't have and understand Black culture in a way that I didn't, and probably in a way that a lot of Black people don't, because that was
Sure.
actually,
Because it's not
that
taught.
was what I
Yeah,
studied.
not
Yeah,
not in that yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, not in that way. And you had because you switched your major.
Yes, I was originally psychology, thinking I was going to law school, and then took my first African American Studies course the first year of my freshman, like first semester of freshman year, and was like, nope, I'm doing all this.
How did your parents feel about that?
They were fine. Again, they don't say no there. They didn't say no unless they had a really good reason. And so they were like, okay, if that's what you want to do, that's
That
fine.
is right, because you are the one that skipped school. No, you were at the party and you had snuck out the house and you were like,
Oh,
"Hey, can
yeah.
you come
Just,
get me?"
yeah. Like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, okay, fair enough. And so, when you get to college, if there's any transracial person out there and they get to college and I guess you felt like you didn't even have to explain yourself because nobody needed to know where you came from. And
Yeah.
is that the
It
first
was,
time you felt like that?
yeah. Well, no. I think it was more like I felt like I was hiding more in college than ever before because my mom taught at the schools where I went. So they all knew my family. And so in high school, you hang out at your friends' houses. So my friends hung out at my house, so they knew my parents.
Okay.
In college was the first time that I actually like drop off, pick up when my parents are coming, where I had to be like, okay, here we
Oh,
go.
wow.
Yeah, because no one knew.
Right. Who are those people? Your driver's
Yes,
here.
yes, yeah, very much. Yeah.
And you were ashamed or just, I don't feel like talking about this.
Yeah, it was more just like this is yeah, I don't even want to have to go there, but I guess I have to go there and to say, I'm adopted and my parents are white and yeah, that's why
Did you
you had to
tell
teach me how to
anybody?
play spades. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, I did. I did. I told people.
but did
Yeah,
you learn though? Did you learn how
I
to play
did. I
spades?
did. I
Okay.
don't love it, but I learned, yes.
Did you tell anybody you were adopted?
Yeah, I did. I told people because they're just people would know that there was something different or some things that I had missed or my mother was an English teacher. My dad was a mass comm professor. So I learned to speak very, very specifically and use specific words and be very like conscious of the words choices that I would use. And so those kinds of things were really obvious that there was something different. Um, or you're standing there in the shuttle and a Beatles song comes on and I'm like, oh, singing along. And they're
You're
like,
like, girl, wait.
oh, why do you know that?
How do you know that
I was
song?
raised by white people. I know it. So yeah, I
I could be a
definitely had
music. I'm
told
a music
people.
lover, but again, I also was raised in a white space, so I too have some.
Yes.
You, what did you say? Duran Duran. I was like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Um. So, and I was again very intrigued by this part of the story because in being in your black space and then going to all the black clubs and doing all the things, and then you end up learning about the Divine Nine.
Yes. Yeah.
Was that your first exposure to? And
Yeah,
for those that don't know what I mean, is Black Greek letter organizations.
yes.
Is that your first exposure to that?
Yeah, I think that it was. I feel like in high school, my best friend and I talked a little bit about it. She also ended up pledging AKA a few years after me. I think we talked about it a little bit in high school because I think that her aunt was an AKA. And so, yeah, but going to high school was my first, I mean, to college was my first real exposure to Divine Nine and to fraternities and sororities and stepping and just having community in a way that I just felt like I have to have this. This is who I am. And it's, I want it really badly. So it was something I chased for sure.
It's very interesting because I know as an adoptee played into one of the reasons why I became an AK.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
I didn't, I had to sit with that. I didn't really realize it in the moment,
Hmm.
but in hindsight, I'm like, oh, it absolutely played into
Yeah,
the
that
reason
acceptance.
that accept the community,
Yeah.
the sisterhood, the yeah.
So
And
like, you're okay. We have decided that you're okay.
we're-
And so I needed that validation from other Black women to know that I belonged.
and when you talked about, like, for an example, going to Boulé, like, I
Yes.
have access and can go to and
Yes.
can do this, and it's okay.
Yeah.
And when I get there, it's going to be a beautiful thing.
Yes. Yeah. And it was really like juxtaposed to um, Jack and Jill that my parents were not allowed to join. My mom tried
That
to
was
do
so
that in high school.
interesting when you
So,
talked
yes.
about
So that
that.
rejection, because my family was white and not being able to have that community, it was like, okay, now I'm doing this on my own and I get to have this.
And
And no
I
one's going
get
to tell
to
me that
have
I can't.
it. And I get to have it.
Yeah.
And I wonder how many other adoptees that belong to the Divine Nine. Where are you?
Yeah.
I know you guys are out. Where are you? And if this kind of played into some of your reason for becoming members of these amazing organizations.
Yes.
Yeah, very interesting to me. So you get through and you do end up having more children
Yes.
after college
Yeah.
and going
Yeah.
to do all the things. Talk about, in particular, the next baby
Mm.
after
After my son.
your son.
Yeah. So I was in college and got pregnant again. And well, actually, I was out of college at that point and got pregnant by my long-term boyfriend. And decided we needed to get married. One, because I didn't want to look like a single young mother. I looked really young, even though I was 24. I still looked probably 16,
Mm-hmm.
and so that played into my decision to get married. And also playing into like, if I get married and if I have this settled person, no one can take my son away. This is going to be, this kid that I get to raise. That was really, really important to me, was to make sure that he came into a two-parent home and that no one had the right to say that I wasn't ready or fit to be a mother.
Even though you married into a situation that wasn't the greatest.
Yeah, he is a great person. He has been. He just wasn't the person for me, and I just wasn't the
Right.
person for him. Yeah, he was my college boyfriend, and that should have been what it was.
Right.
But yeah, no, he's a phenomenal human being. There was no like dramatic anything in it. It just, we weren't
Oh
each
yeah,
other's
there's no tea
person.
there. It was just
No, no tea at all.
no tea
None.
there.
No.
Just you when you talked about all your reasons for getting married, and I was like, yeah, nope,
Yeah.
nope, nope. And ultimately,
It wasn't because I loved him and I wanted to spend the rest of my life with him. It was,
right,
yeah, that I was pregnant and wanted to make sure I had
pregnant,
this
and
this
still
child.
carrying the trauma of
Yes.
what happened the first time, right?
Yeah. And not aware of any of that trauma also.
Sure, absolutely,
Because I thought it was
absolutely.
my decision and I had made this choice and this beautiful thing and didn't even put words to the fact that like it
Oh,
wasn't a beautiful thing. It wasn't my decision. And it was completely made out of fear and lack of resources, not out of love or any other things. Fear and lack of resources.
Because you just said what you said, because I was going to go there a little later, but I'm going to go there right now. Lack of resources. You keep pulling me back to this another thing. You talk about, had I had this and this and this and this, I would have kept my baby.
Yes. And it's not
What?
even a lot. A plan for my senior year in high school, a plan for being a mother in college, a plan for diapers and crib and all of those things in 2 weeks, 6 weeks later, like how to get all of those things. It was just support and the okay, that it was okay, that I wasn't going to mess him up. But even further than that, if I had understood that adoption was trauma, I wouldn't have done it because I wouldn't have put trauma on my son. If I had understood that I was grieving as an adoptee, I wouldn't have done it. If I would have understood that birth mother grief intensifies over the years, I definitely would not have done it. But there's so many things that I didn't know. I was still in the fog. And so I didn't understand so much about adoption. And so, had I had any of that information, I absolutely would not have relinquished him because I wouldn't have put him through the trauma that I had been through, that I didn't know I had been through.
Right. And as a result, it's turned you into this advocate for, adoption, but only if it's like really, really, really necessary. Because if there
Absolutely.
is a way, let's not.
Yeah. Yeah, and absolutely necessary. My own biological mother has made it very clear that she did not want to raise me. She would not have raised me. But my biological siblings on my dad's side are like, our mom would have absolutely taken you. Like, that's what she did. There were 10 kids in that house. My dad never even knew that I had been conceived, so that wasn't even an option. So there wasn't even like consideration of my paternal side of the family and if they could have done anything differently. It was just her decision. And so people will say, but your mom didn't want to raise you. That's fine. But there's a whole family that would have taken me in and I
That
would
kind of
have
speaks to
stayed
the
with them.
time too,
Yeah.
because back then men didn't do that.
Yeah.
So the courts were never going to consider probably him
Yes.
doing that. But again, 70s,
Yeah.
very different time, very different mindset.
Yeah.
But yeah, a
Yeah.
whole
Well,
other.
even the late 80s when I had my son, I knew the father of the
Yeah.
child. He was my boyfriend at the time, at times, not at that time, but at times. And they had me just write a thing in the newspaper saying that I was relinquishing so that they didn't have to get his permission. And so it was like a
Mhm.
wanted ad.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Even though I knew and I was still in contact with him. He knew I was pregnant. He knew that I was making this decision. But even with that, they didn't want to have anything to do with him. And so they said, no, we don't want that information. Just put this ad in the Sunday paper saying that you're doing this. And if he sees it, then he'll contact us. He was like 19 years old in Baltimore City. Like, he's not reading the Sunday classified. So it's not
He
happening.
was
And they knew
he
that.
had a lot going on, but you
Yeah,
got to
he
go
did.
book, yeah, for that.
Yes.
Now there's a little bit of tea there.
Yeah, there's a lot of tea
Too
there.
much.
Yes.
Let me ask you this. And if you said it in your book, I don't remember because you keep pulling me out of my way. I want to ask my questions.
Sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. Um, your son, because I know you reunited. Did he reunite with his father?
He has had contact with him. His
Okay,
father is currently incarcerated and he's written letters to him. So
so he
yes,
kept
yeah,
up with
but
that life. Okay,
yes, yes.
go read the book. You find out.
Yes.
Okay, okay, okay. So you do get married again. You
Hmm.
do have beautiful more children. That
Yes.
baby girl, I love her. Tell her to get out of your face.
Oh yeah. She's my my sour patch kid is what we call her because she is 1 minute she's sour and 1 minute she's sweet. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Love the stories you were telling about her. And so you're like much later in life, you figure out, oh, I got a lot going on. Even though you're making all these accomplishments, you go to school, you finish school, master, Dr. Hasberry, all the things. And you had the audacity to marry a man in the military, and now you're
Yeah.
still bouncing
And
around.
moved all
But
over the place. Yeah.
it's like, oh.
Yes.
But even in all of that, something at the core is like something's not right.
Yeah.
Was there one thing, or was it several things? Was it you finding your son? What was the thing that
It was,
maybe other
yeah,
adoptees should look out for?
it was always. So I started looking for my family in 93. So way before I found my son. So it was just this thing. It was kind of like the BET thing. Like I knew there was a family out there that I should have access to. There was history, there was culture, there were all these things that I just felt in my body that I had the right to have. And so I really started looking in 93. And it wasn't until 2017 using DNA that I found them. But it was just this overwhelming desire to understand parts of me that did not fit with my adoptive family. So my introversion, my love of music, my musical ear, being able to like hear and have perfect pitch in my ear, my athletic ability and wanting to really do a lot in sports, and none of my other siblings were like that. There were just things about me that I knew came from something, those ancestral resources that I knew were there in my bones, and I needed to find out who these people were and how was connected to them, and if I fit in with them.
My God. I'm shaking my head because I get that. I had a very similar experience when I I found everybody. I found both sides.
Mhm. Yeah,
I was disappointed when I found my maternal side
me as
because I
well.
didn't find that thing I had created in my head.
Mhm.
But when I found my paternal side
Yeah,
is when I found the genetic mirror. When I found what you're just talking about, the
yeah,
music, the dancing, the this hair.
yeah.
It's all over there. My entire face. Tell your sister, I think it was, sent you
Yes,
that,
Sissy.
and you
Yeah,
saved it. What did you say
yes.
again?
I said, wow, I finally look like somebody. And she said, you look like a whole lot of somebodies. And it was just like, oof,
Yeah, it felt
finally.
it when you said it because
Yeah.
I get it. And people that are not adopted don't get it. And why would they? I mean,
Yeah.
and why would you? But there is nothing like looking at yourself. And it's very different because, the first person I saw also that looked like me was my oldest son.
Mhm.
But even in that,
It's not the
this was
same.
real. It's not the same.
It's not the same.
It's not the same. Looking at my sisters,
Yeah. 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 And for me, I think the thing that was most striking was just a year ago, last summer, actually, we have a sibling reunion and we all get together. And this
oh,
was the second year of it. And it was here. And so my children came, my daughters came. And seeing my oldest daughter with her cousins and how much she
mm-hmm,
looked like her cousins, it
mm-hmm,
was like, wait a minute, this isn't
mm-hmm.
just my story. This
No,
is their reunion too. And I had all of these years. I found them in 27 and 17. It wasn't until August of 2025 where I was like, wait a minute, this isn't just me. Like they found family too. They have
right.
connection. They are seeing mirrors. And I hadn't even put those two things together until I saw it with her
I had the
standing
same
there.
thing with my youngest son. My older two are grown, but my youngest
Mhm.
son, seeing him, he took a picture with his aunt, selfie, and when I looked at that picture, I was same thing you said. Oh, you look like these people too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yes.
yeah, I had that same like light bulb moment. It was like, oh.
Yeah.
And unlike my older children, it was never a secret that I was adopted. But this younger one has really watched as I went to go meet the people. And then he's even been with me on a couple of the trips. They've been down here. And so, yeah, you forget. And you looking for you're like, oh,
Yeah.
these are your people too. These are
Yes.
your,
Yeah.
and that whole musical thing, because all of my kids are musically inclined, including myself. But now we know where it comes from. We
Yes.
come from a long line.
Yeah, we do too.
singers and
Musicians,
musicians. Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Never knew where it was just something I did, something just they do. That
Yeah,
now we get it, and it makes sense. And
yes.
now it encourages me to because my oldest, my baby boy rather. Now I really want to lean into it because he wants to
Mhm.
lean into it.
Yeah,
Whereas before it was like, okay, that's because I didn't get it.
yeah. It's part of your legacy. I didn't either. Yeah, my son plays every instrument, and taught him. We taught him. We paid for the drum lessons, and he taught himself everything else, like weird string instruments and all kinds of like ukuleles and guitars and like mandolin. He taught
Wow.
himself all of that, and it was like when I told him, "You have two uncles who are pretty famous musicians in Paris." He was just like, "Yep, tracks."
My gosh. Talk a little bit about your birth mother because you
Yeah,
said you too had a.
she's not done the work. And she rejected me and was really angry that I found her and that I told my brother, who she raised, who's about 2.5 years older than me. She was really angry that I told him about me. And so she wrote me one letter that I put in the book that she basically said, I don't want anything to do with you and I never will. And yeah, that double rejection was really, really hard. But it was kind of like, it didn't matter to me too much because what I wanted to do is find these siblings and find my dad. I already had an idea that she was not going to be super happy because I had been looking since '93 and they knew her name and she hadn't accepted any of the requests to meet. So I was aware that there was something going on with her. Also,
Mhm.
being a therapist, I recognize that she just hasn't done her work and she's probably stuck in the shame of it and embarrassed and all of that. And she didn't want any of that coming up or having people look at her differently. And I get all of that. But it still sucks a lot.
Yeah. And your
Doesn't feel good.
sibling on that
Yeah.
side, what did
Yeah, so he was welcoming at first and just great. But then when it came time to talk about meeting his kids, who are the same, like his daughter and my daughter are the exact same age,
mhm.
he said, I don't want to tell them that this happened. I don't want them thinking like their grandmother doesn't want them to know. And so for years, I was just kind of sitting by waiting for him to change his mind, and he didn't. And so at some point, we kind of had a conversation that blew up where I was like, this isn't fair, and I'm not doing this anymore. And so we don't have contact anymore because he's allowing her to sit in the secret. And for a year, my daughter went to college a year early, and for a year she was about maybe 2/10 of a mile from her cousin, and her cousin has no idea that we exist.
Go knock on the door. No, I'm
Right? I know. I think I've thought about sending. She's in college now, and I like send her a letter. And the craziest thing is that my daughter's college best friend is actually went to high school with my niece and is connected. When my daughter was scrolling, was like,
it's gonna happen.
isn't this my cousin?" And like, yeah. And she's like, "My friend is connected to her. Here's her Instagram." Like, oh wow.
It's because it's gonna happen.
We'll see. We'll see.
It will because that's how the universe works.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen. I just want um for these birth parents that are from the 60s, 70s, 80s.
Yeah.
We're a product of whatever y'all was doing. So please don't be mad at us because we're trying to figure out who we are
Yeah.
in 2025. I know none of you all ever thought that we would just be out here taking DNA tests like you chew gum.
Yeah. And it's going to get worse.
Right.
Because everyone, if you think about like social media, everything that you do, you're saying on social media. So every boy, you're like, oh, I'm going out on date with this guy. Here's a picture. 20 years from now, someone's
Years from
going to be
now,
looking
somebody's
through
gonna,
your Facebook account or your
yeah,
Instagram account and say, oh, that must be my dad. It's going to get worse. It's
right.
just, we're too connected now.
We're very connected, but we have a right.
Absolutely.
We have a
Yeah.
right.
And that's how I felt about my son. It was when I found him, it was, I will tell you everything that you want to
Mhm.
know. Like, there's no question you can ask me that I'm not going to answer.
Because
Um,
his adoption was closed, I assume.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, his adoption was closed. So
Okay.
yeah, anything he wanted to know and still anything he wants to know, I will tell him.
My final question to you, because I read your book and I was like, I'm not giving it away. They are going to have to go get the book. I'm going to dangle the carrot.
Okay.
And they're going to have to go get your book because it is phenomenal. And she really dives into herself and the becoming of all the things. But my final question for you is, what would you tell the young girl that might be pregnant right now, the teenager?
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to her?
All the things about informed consent. So adoption will be trauma, and it's a temporary problem, and this is a long-term solution, a permanent solution to a temporary problem. That there is support. There are groups that are supporting. There are women who will support. If you reach out to anyone, any birth mothers on Instagram to get information, please do that. You can do it. I haven't met a single young mother, teen, 20s, whatever, unwed mother who regrets raising their child. But every single birth mother I've met regrets relinquishing their child. I mean, I wanted a doctor and a lawyer and black art, and my husband's a lawyer and I'm a PhD, a doctor, and we have black art in our house. Like, I became the family that I thought my son needed. And so I just needed more time and I needed support. And so look for support and know that in time, you will work it out.
Mic drop. That's I want to thank you so much for coming and sharing your story.
Thank you for having me.
And please go get her book, Adopting Privilege. Please go get the book because she had quite the childhood, quite the young adult. Like, she's got some stories. And she's so very unassuming because you're just, like you said, you're very just.
Yes.
But when I was reading that book, I was like, girl, what?
I lived a life.
So thank you again. You can get it. I personally did Audible because I love to listen to books. Tell everyone where they can get the book.
The easiest way is adoptingprivilege.com. It's through my publisher Muse, but adoptingprivilege.com, you can buy the book right from there. And I do suggest buying it because there are pictures in there and other things that you can't get along with the Audible.
So yes, on my bookshelf. But I wanted to. I just know me. I'm like,
I needed the Audible too. That's why I did it because like I like Audible.
I'm gonna get it because I listen, but I have a bookshelf right. Well, you can't see it's behind me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get it. Thank you again. Give me 1 second. Don't leave me. And on that note, bye, family.
Journey on. You need a pie with the good? Oh yeah, what is the one?